الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نَعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. So make sure you find ways to remind yourself to be grateful and appreciative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounties and favors. Anything you get the good news, any success, any achievement, any blessing, you immediately should remember that it's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is a blessing and it is a test. Everything is a blessing and it is a test. So make sure you are grateful for the blessing and make sure you pass the test successfully. How you pass the test successfully? Very simple. You meet favors and blessing with gratitude, and you meet difficulties with patience and perseverance. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, I believe we reached some important conclusions about the questions that we started this series with. They were very fundamental questions. Unless we have solid answers for them, we're going nowhere, and we're going to keep repeating failed attempts time and again. Before we talk about those questions and those conclusions, let me explain why this is important, why what we're doing here is very important. Because the most important thing in deen and in life is understanding, fahm. The critical thing. People suffer when they don't understand, when there is no vision is not clear, when they are confused, when they are overwhelmed. It's the key for happiness and success at all levels. Understanding a problem will enable you to solve it. If you don't understand it, you live with it all your life. Why? Because you don't understand it. Understanding reality, then you can engage effectively. In order to understand reality, you need to understand history. That's what we have been doing, so that you know how and why you reach this point. Understanding a person, then you know how to deal with that person effectively. A lot of problems at the family level, spousal, between parents and children, is people don't understand each other and don't make the effort to understand each other. So they are talking different language. People don't make the effort to listen so that they understand you, understand where you're coming from. No, I'm waiting for you to finish. That's if I waited, just to refute what you said, not even to listen to it. So understanding a person, you know how to deal with him. Lack of understanding leads to all kinds of problems. The alternative is clashes, disputes, power struggle, etc. But people, when they understand each other, they can find a formula. That's why I said at all levels, from government to families, at all levels. Knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding and knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you love Him and have very strong relationship with Him. That's why Quran tells us that hikmah or wisdom, it's a huge blessing. وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Those who have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الشيطان يعيدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء والله يعيدكم مغفرة منه وفضلا والله واسع عليم. يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Shaitan threatens you with the prospect of poverty and commands you to do foul deeds, bad deeds. Allah promises you His forgiveness and His abundance. Allah is limitless and all-knowing. So it's clear, there is a call of Shaitan, there is a call of Allah. That's what we find ourselves all the time, between the call of Shaitan and between the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the verses in a subtle way says that the wise people will follow the call of Allah. And He gives wisdom to whoever He will. Whoever is given wisdom has truly been given much good. But only those with insight bear this in mind. وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. All the money in the world will not buy you the tranquility and peace of mind that you get with wisdom and understanding. That's why Rasulullah said, wisdom should be like the lost property of a believer. Hikmah dallatul mu'min. You are always on the look, thirsty for wisdom. The more wisdom you have, that will give you that peace of mind and tranquility that people are looking for. Now, I don't claim wisdom, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with a lot of tranquility and peace of mind. No anxiety, never stressed out, never overwhelmed, never confused or angry or anything, or lost. And inshallah, one day we'll share with you the recipe. Not my recipe, the recipe I'm trying to follow. I mean, I don't know how good I'm following it, but there is a recipe, Islamic recipe, that you try to follow, you get all that peace and tranquility. But the key factor in it is understanding, fahm, understanding. A good understanding, when you have a good understanding of what's happening and why, you will not be overwhelmed by the news and the analysis, etc. You know what's going on and why. How our reality was shaped. That can be very helpful when you know how you reach this point. Again, at all levels, we're talking about family, society, etc. When you have a good assessment of where things are heading, and I personally was rarely surprised by events, by what's happening, or shocked. And then when you have a good idea about the way out, what does it take to come out of this situation that we are in? I personally was never swayed by any attempt or experience if it is not in that direction, in the right direction. People, they get excited, etc. I always, if it is not heading in the right direction, I don't fool myself. I say, inshallah, maybe things will work. No, things will not work. There are rules that govern this universe, and they are not biased toward Muslims or anybody. So any attempt that does not, I don't see it going in the right direction or not on a solid foundation, I don't expect anything. That's why I've never disappointed you. I predicted the failure of different Arab Spring experiences when apparently they were at the peak of their success and received all kinds of attacks, and that's fine. When Tunisia, Egypt, etc., they were at the peak of their success, I kept saying, this is not heading in the right direction. Don't fool yourself. So, again, it's close parenthesis. That's why we started this series, because fahm, understanding, is critical. Understanding deen, understanding history, how and why we came to this point, understanding deen, what should happen, where we are supposed to be, understanding the reality so that you know how to fix it. You can't fix something that you don't understand. So it goes back all to understanding. Understanding deen, understanding history, understanding reality, so that we can chart a course from where we are to where we are supposed to be. We go back to the conclusion and the questions, that we asked: why Muslims are lagging behind, why attempts of reform have failed, what does it take for us to succeed? We are in this situation, we lagged behind because of one main reason. And I mentioned two, but we're still focusing on one main reason. If you are overwhelmed with everything, just remember this. We are where we are, and we lagged behind because we tolerate dictatorship. If you're looking only for one sentence, you have only 5 seconds, because we are people who tolerate, we are okay with it. We tolerate dictatorship. All other nations that have advanced, they solved this problem. They uprooted dictatorship from their hearts. So it's rejected completely. Doesn't matter who is the dictator, doesn't matter how they can, it's rejected completely. So there is a consensus now in advanced nation against dictatorship. So even if somebody has tendency to be dictator, his own parties will reject him. His own city, his own tribe, his own family maybe. Why? Because that's rejected by the society. So if you're looking for one reason, because we are okay with it, we are okay living as subjects, not citizens, under dictatorship. And just pull the map and look at majority of Muslim countries. All Arab countries and many Muslim countries, they are living under dictatorship and they are okay with it. So people, when they wake up and they hear about there is a coup d'etat, they go back to work normal. It's not something it's not a problem. So people tolerated. And dictatorship is not only in politics and government, it is practiced at all levels. It trickles down. Dictatorship at home, dictatorship in school, dictatorship at work. Everybody who has any power on anybody will oppress them. So it is a culture. It's a disease, starts at the head, but it is widespread in the society. It's a whole culture. And society becomes preparing the individual to be subjects from home, suppress opinion, etc. So the child is ready to be subject, not to be citizen. Again, the reason, we'll talk about the devastation that dictatorship can cause at all levels, economy, education, the manners of people, you name it. But if there is dictatorship, there is power struggle. Why? Because if I have no say unless I'm in power, I will fight for it. It's very simple. But if I have a say, even if I'm outside, then I don't care about being a power. It becomes a burden. Take it. I don't want it. Because I'm still going to be a free citizen with all my rights, and I have a say, even as you are in charge. But when there is a dictatorship, then you are either oppressor or oppressed. There is nothing in between. That's why you have power struggle at all levels. And they get bloody, violent and bloody. Why? Because people, they are ready to fight with everything to get to power, because if you're not there, then you are oppressed. So you're going to have to choose. There is nothing in between. Just compare in countries where there is no dictatorship. And at one time, I mentioned this. I was in visit to Tunisia, and I mentioned an example that people could not, they had a hard time believe it. I said in this country, sometimes a person is nominated or suggested to run for president. At that time, it was Colin Powell. And even though he was almost 100% sure that he's going to win, he said, I'm going to think about it. And I'm going to talk to my family. And then he ended up said, no, I'm not running. People say, are you serious? Is this happening on Earth or in another planet? Because that's unheard of. Under dictatorship, people will jump to power. Why? Because, again, you lose nothing if you are not in power. You're still going to be free citizen with all your rights, and you have a say. You can elect somebody who will represent you. So that's the big difference between the two. So because you are either oppressor or oppressed. That's the reason why successful countries are democratic. Are the democratic ones, they are the ones that are successful. You know what? Successful families are democratic. Democratic families are more successful than dictatorship. than families run by a dictator. Now, democratic doesn't mean chaotic. Still need leadership. So as a head of the family, you need still to be a leader, but not dictator. Huge difference between leadership and dictatorship. So leadership, leader, but democratic. SubhanAllah, our great religion solved this with 3 words, not even a verse. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. Their matters should be decided by consultation. Anybody who is affected by the decision should have a say in it. At home, your child, your children, everybody. Because they're going to be impacted by the decision. No taxation without representation. Because I'm going to be impacted by the decision, I have to have a say in it. وَأَمْرُهُمْ. The Quran left it open. أَمْرُهُمْ means everywhere. Family, أَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. Stakeholders. People should be stakeholders. Stakeholders means I'm invested in the decision, so I need, because it's going to impact me. So I have to have a say in it. Anyone affected by the decision should have a say in it. That's the key, that's the meaning of أَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. Now, dictatorship, what does it do? Devastation. Dictatorship means corruption, automatically. Dictatorship means closed group controlling the decision and therefore will control the wealth. People are not angels. People, when they have absolute power, corrupts absolutely. People, when they have, with dictatorship, show me a place where it is dictatorship and there is no corruption. Can't. They go hand in hand. You see one, the other is there. Corruption means economy done. Because economy thrives when there is transparency, when there is competition, when there is etc. People will be creative and compete. But when there is a corruption, economy will die. Economy, education system, etc. Worse than all of this, the manners of people. Ibn Khaldun says, الشعوب المقهورة تسوء أخلاقهم. Oppressed people, their character is spoiled. The character of oppressed people will be spoiled. الشعوب المقهورة تسوء أخلاقهم. They learn lying, they learn hypocrisy, they learn crooked way, they learn bribing. That's the only way you can get through. It's not, there is no meritocracy. It's not like by your effort. No, only these crooked ways. الشعوب المقهورة تسوء أخلاقهم. كواكبي, a whole booklet about the consequences of dictatorship and oppression. Bani Israel. Bani Israel, Quran focused on Bani Israel. The great focus on the story of Bani Israel. Why? And from my reading, the main message that Quran is telling us from the focus and the emphasis on Bani Israel and their story is don't tolerate dictatorship. That's the message I can see. Why? Because Bani Israel were not born like this. Bani Israel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ الْكِتَابَ والحكمة والنبوة ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير من العالمين. We gave scripture, wisdom and prophethood to the children of Israel. We provided them with good things and favored them over all others. These are the people who were chosen to carry the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what happened to end up in that, what we read, what they were doing with Musa alayhi salam? It is those, a lot of books put it at about 400 years. It's about 400 years living under oppression between Yusuf alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam. That's Bani Israel. That's what destroyed their manners, their character. That's the result. The result is what you read in the Quran. It's a result of living under Fir'aun, under Pharaoh, for about 400 years between Yusuf alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam. That's what resulted in, we lived under dictatorship for 13 centuries. Not even 400 years. For 13 centuries, what do you expect? What you expect is what you see. What do you notice when you go to visit Muslim country? People come back and say, people are lying and people are cheating. People don't have work ethics. People don't keep their promise. People, etc. That's what you see. You get shocked. There is no even etiquette of discussion. You start discussing and they interrupt you. They don't even wait for you to finish sentence. So that's what Ibn Khaldun, great sociologist, that's what Kawakibi said. It's a whole booklet. That's what the Quran, even before that, says. So there is one message. When you read, next time you read Quran and you come across story of Bani Israel, remember this message. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, don't tolerate oppression under any circumstances because it is devastating. That's what it does to people. So don't do it. Unfortunately, we did exactly the opposite. Not only we tolerated it, we legitimized it. We made it legitimate. So even worse than tolerating it, we made it, there are fatwa that legitimizes dictatorship. So the devastating at all levels, including to the character of people, to their mind, to their personality, and it cannot be worse. Don't tell me there is something worse than this. Quran is telling us there is nothing worse. It cannot be worse than tolerating dictatorship. It's like, weapons of mass destruction. You know what nuclear bomb does to a city? That's what dictatorship does to the society. It's very similar. It's complete damage. So what's the lesson that we learn from here? That Muslims should realize that next time they get rid of a dictator, they should expect that, first of all, it's going to be costly because you allowed them to root themselves for so long. So it's not going to be easy. Second, after that, there will be chaos. You have to expect it. Why chaos? Because there is one man has all the power and disappeared. So there is a big vacuum, so there is chaos. There are no institutions. Expect that. But here is the key. Solution is not because you are afraid of chaos or you're fed up, you look for another dictator. No. Here you should say that we already paid a heavy price, we need to get our sacrifices worth. We paid that heavy price so that this will be gone once and forever, like Europe and the West have done. This page has to be turned once and forever. It's going to cost us more sacrifice, let's do it. But let's do it once and it's surgery. And we are done with this. But unfortunately, that's not what keeps happening. That's why even countries that get rid of dictators, they came back. Dictatorship. Why? Because people, they go into fluid situation or chaotic situation, so they look for stability. So when somebody comes and enforce law and order and stability, they accept them because we are yet to reject it. We are yet to reject it and we are still, unfortunately, okay with it. Why dictatorship caused all that devastation? Because dictator, they don't want you to think. They don't want you to be aware. So the awareness of people is the biggest enemy of dictators. Why? Because they need obedient subjects. Obedient subject means they should not be thinking, they should not be aware, they should not know their true religion. Why? Because the true religion is very inspiring, very empowering. It tells you that there should be justice. There should be, there are natural rights that nobody can take away from you. People are born free. You cannot take that away from them. So all of this, dictator does not like. Wants obedient subjects. And that's why, again, dictatorship causes all that problem, and that's why we ended up in this situation. So solution, people keep asking about solution. We need to get rid of it from here and from the books of fiqh. That this is the biggest crime, the biggest kabira. The major sin is not more than zina, more than stealing, more than anything. The biggest sin is dictatorship. And therefore, it should never be tolerated and should be rejected completely from the bottom of our hearts. And you start with yourself. How do you start with yourself? You start from home and family. Start from your spousal relationship and your relationship with your children. If you are train yourself to be more shura person, more democratic, and encourage people to express their opinion. If you find your child very obedient and never say anything, don't be happy with that. Don't say this is a very good child. That's not a good sign. You need someone who asks questions and someone who expresses their opinion so that their personality is shaped in the right way. So early on, we need to train children and train ourselves first to be more democratic, and then use shura. Remember, وَأَمْرُهُمْ shura. Put it in your house. وَأَمْرُهُمْ shura بَيْنَهُمْ. Everything is going to be discussed or decided by consultation. Become a democratic leader. Try to rely on convincing. Because this shura is a culture. It's a culture that has to be spread. We have to practice it. It has to be very deeply rooted in our minds. Encourage opinion and rely on convincing. Don't never tell your child, do it because I said so. Do it because 1, 2, 3. Now, it should be much easier here in this country for all of us. Why? Because that's the norm here. Now, if you want to do this in a Muslim country, good luck, because that's not the norm. If you see a democratic father or mother, that's not, you're going to be the exception. But here, it should be easy because that's the norm. And your children in school, they are taught to express their opinion, to be free, etc. So they'd rather have the same setup at home. Even should be safer at home to express their opinion and to be themselves. The family is like a team. The most successful family is when members feel they are stakeholders, that they are part of the decision. But if you keep imposing everything on it, they don't care whether it succeeds or it doesn't succeed. It's yours. Take it. But if I participated in it, then I become stakeholder. I become investor. I want it to succeed. I want that decision to work because I participated in it. So stakeholders, when you make people feel they are stakeholders, that's what produces harmony and success. Run the family as a small state and as a team. Again, be a democratic leader. Now, you need to have some rules and policies at home. But they have to be clear and fair. It's not like moody. Depends on your mood. When you are angry, you implement a certain rule. When you are not, no. Should be fair, clear, and consistent. People will accept it. People will accept it if there is a policy or rule that is fair and that is clear and that is consistent. And also make people around you trust that you really care about them, because that will make them more receptive for you, that what you are doing is in their best interest. In brief, apply the prophetic leadership model, the prophetic model of leadership. عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم. He cares about you. He feels your pain. That's sympathy. And he wants the best for you. He wants to see you in the best possible shape. That's what people around you should be, should be confident and trust that you care about. عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم. فبما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا رسول وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. It is from a mercy of Allah that you were lenient with them and you are caring. If you had, لو كنت فظا غليظ القلب, if you were hard-hearted, they will run away from you. Even the Prophet. ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. How about father will be فظا غليظ القول and he wants his children to be close to him or to be. So be the change that you want to see, lead by example. Let's try to spread this culture of shura. And let's really remove this tolerance of dictatorship, قابلية للاستبداد from our hearts. And then the next step, of course, after starting in your small family and roles, a lot of you are connected to their original countries. Actually, some people, they're living here only with their bodies. Their minds is always with the news there and following. So try to spread this idea that that's our root, the root cause of all our problems is tolerance of dictatorship. And there is no way we can move forward and progress unless we do like all advanced countries did, which is consensus. We can differ about many things, but we should agree on rejecting dictatorship and not tolerating anymore. And of course, the scholars should do their job of getting rid of all those fatwa that legitimize dictatorship and issue new fatwa to make it that's the shaitan, that's the mother of all sins. It's tolerating dictatorship in society. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, in order to know what dictatorship and tolerating dictatorship have done to people and societies, you need just to pay a visit to any Muslim country. You will see the consequences. But also we need to know what damage and devastation has done to the Muslim mind, to the Muslim personality, to the Muslim character, and then to the deen itself. That's not obvious. That's inshallah what we're going to come back to it and see that this dictatorship not only devastated the people, but also devastated and mutilated our deen 13 centuries to the point that we inherited a version of deen that does not do anything. It is embraced by more and more millions and millions of people, but still situation is not changing. That's inshallah what we're going to come back to it next time. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا توفنا وانت راض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا يوم نلقاك. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وأقم الصلاة.